Heard it. You heard it.
Julie, come here.
He's downstairs. We're upstairs, and he hasn't learned how to use the stairs yet, and so he's down there crying.
Ah, the pet baby.
Very good. Okay. Then now from here we go live on Facebook. Okay, so this is supposed to take me to not Rochelle Day Facebook, the other Facebook. Share to a page. Share to Uplift Bead Society. I want to. Okay. Usually they ask you to go live in the event. So that's what I'm wondering. If from Facebook I can just say go live, or if I should click this. What do you think, guys? Rochelle.
Oh, now my phone says this meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, and so it's asking permission.
Yep.
And it's never asked me that before.
On Facebook?
On the Zoom, and I came a pop-up that said your meeting's being recorded and continue to be recorded. Like, so you're trying to, you have to give permission.
Huh.
Is yours doing the same thing?
Mine was.
All right, well, we're about to go live. So Maggie, you
Again.
Okay, well, are we live yet? I don't see anything on Facebook.
I am.
We just got a thing that said permission, and we granted it. And I've got a little thing in the corner that says live. So I think we are.
We are live, everyone. Yes, we are. On your watch list, it'll show up on the left-hand side. It'll say Upper Midwest Bead Society Live. And we are there. So we really appreciate you all joining us. And Maggie, our fearless leader, president of the Upper Midwest Bead Society, will introduce us all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beading Basics Live. We have this one Saturday a month, usually the middle Saturday, and it's free to everyone everywhere who wants to tune in and watch the show. We usually have anywhere from 1 to 3 artists who are demonstrating a technique, a project, whatever they come up with. And so that's what we'll be doing today. We have 3 artists, and I'm going to let Rochelle take over introducing them. I just want to make one small announcement on behalf of the Bead Society. Our website now has the membership PayPal button on it, so everybody can join on the web. Yay! We're so happy. And so that's at umbs.org, and it's on the membership page. And you just will click on the PayPal button and go from there. And that's all I have to say. You take it away, Rochelle.
Super. I was just sharing onto the Bobby Bead Facebook page. So we should be live on the Bobby Bead Facebook page also. And so hopefully our friends are joining us on Upper Midwest Bead Society and on the Bobby Bead Facebook page. So we're trying to make sure we're getting everybody. And then all of our members are zooming in through Zoom. And so we have our Saturday Beading Basics Live, and that's open to everyone. It's trying to gain more members to our bead society. And I'm from Bobby Bead. We are open here on Saturdays and Sundays. And so I am zooming from the back room of Bobby Bead. This is our wholesale showroom. So I'd like to tell you about our upcoming event, which is our Monday night meeting, which we have featured artists, Sean and Hannah. They're going to be doing a lamp work demonstration for us. We've never been able to have them at the Wilder Center because of all the flame restrictions with all the melting of the glass. So they're going to be lamp working from their home studios. And so Hannah and Sean, would you like to tell us about our July meeting, what you're going to do?
Why don't you start, honey?
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to be working in borosilicate, both of us, and we're going to be focusing on flowers because I like them. And I'm going to be creating a borosilicate orchid bead. There's a little close-up of it. It's both a bead and a pendant. You can maybe see there's a loop on the back. And I'm going to be talking about how making lamp work beads for me is kind of like making brownies. You do all the parts and you stick it together and then let it cook in the kiln for a while. And that's what I'm going to be doing. Sean is also going to be working in borosilicate, but he's going to be doing something a little different. So
We'll be making these little flower, bellflower beads. They're done out of tubing, and there's a wide range of colors available in tubing now, fortunately, unlike when I started and there wasn't. So these are amber and they've got gold fuming on top. But one of the things I'm going to do is explore some of the options, such as not fuming it on top, but rather on the inside, or using different levels and layers of fuming, including gold and silver, or gold or silver. And you can get quite a range of different colors on top. It's a nice metallic sheen, just pure gold and pure silver is all it takes. And you get some beautiful, beautiful colors.
So we'll be going up on July 5th. Sean will probably go first, and then we're going to need a little intermission because he and I work on different torches in different rooms. So once he's done, we'll switch the camera over to my studio and just go one right after the other. And that's all we're going to do. That's July 5th. What time, Rochelle?
It's from 6 to 7:30.
Okay.
That's Central Time Zone. And
Right.
so depending on where you are in the world, 6 to 7
Right.
p.m.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
We hope
looking forward
there.
to it.
Thank you. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You too.
thanks. And then Hannah, you'll also be teaching a class for our August as well.
Did that item arrive? Oh, I
It
think it
did arrive, and so I was trying to unpack it really quickly this morning. And so everyone bear with me. She will be making this really adorable embroidery and beading, and it's for your little stork scissors. And so the scissors, they fit absolutely perfectly, so you never ever lose them. It's on a chain you can wear around your neck, so you're taking a class or doing anything, or get distracted. So your cute little scissors fit perfectly, and it's got ultra suede and wonderful fun beadwork. So this will be Hannah's class she's teaching us for the August demo and do workshops. And that once again, whoops, calendar is on the 19th, Thursday, August 19th. Hannah will be teaching us, and you'll soon see everything on the Upper Midwest Bead Society website. And we'll be sending out a special newsletter just for the August demo and do workshops. And so we're super excited about it. And so,
Wonderful.
yeah, super exciting. And you'll be able to get kits, little mini kit supplies here at Bobby Bead. Hannah will be sending us the rest of the supplies, and we'll put everything together and have them so you can get them here at Bobby Bead to take her class.
I assume that you're probably willing to ship those out as well, right? Those
I
kits.
totally am. That's what we do at Bobby Bead. We're mail order. We ship all over the world every day. So we'll have a link to that, to the, so the website, so that you could get the kit for it. And then we'll send it to you. Otherwise, if you're local, come and see the display in the store. And we'll have all kinds of new art displays as well with the 2020 challenge. And Hannah's coat will be here really soon too. And
Right.
all the kinds of wonderful things on display at Bobby Bead very soon.
A lot of the techniques that I use for that scissor case you'll see on the coat that I did for my 2021 Toho challenge.
Oh, that's super. Well, this is absolutely beautiful. And it's mixed with pearl cotton and coho seed beads and also suede. And so I just absolutely love it. I always lose my scissors, so that's just ideal.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And so upcoming today, we have Gail Mcmillan starting us off with a chakra energy demonstration. We are celebrating, we have Pride Month all month. We have Juneteenth today. It's a brand new holiday, federal holiday. We're very excited to be finally recognized. And summer solstice is tomorrow, Father's Day. So we need all kinds of great energy going on. So Gail is going to be showing you how to make really wonderful earrings and bracelets that are basic jewelry techniques of how to create anything with putting on clasps, doing the stretch bracelets, putting on ear wires and everything. So everything plus all the good chakra energy. And then after that, I will be showing wonderful techniques of branch fringe. And so you can make really fun little earrings, very delicate, toho seed beads, and little pearls or crystals, or you could make them into bracelets. And they're really fun textures and really big and movable parts to play with. So branch fringe is really a lot of fun, and you can make it fancy or simple. So it's pretty much your imagination, and any beads you use will be fun. And then Erin Connor will be here at 3. She's, I'm not sure she's back from the market yet. She's still working at the farmer's market. Then she'll be doing all kinds of crocheting techniques, your beginning basic crochets, bandanas, hats, cute little earrings. So stick around with us. We'll be here for all kinds of fun. But we'll start us off with Gail Mcmillan. She has been making jewelry for a long time, and earrings are her specialty. But she really has a really great touch. So we will turn you over to Gail.
Thank you. Thank you, Rochelle. This is a lot of fun and I appreciate being able to share my enthusiasm with everyone. I hope that I can maybe teach some of you beginners something new, or how to complete a project, and maybe you can just fly with it from there. I know most of my experience has been watching and going to demonstrations and YouTube, and I really have enjoyed all the videos I've watched, as well as being in person when we used to be able to, and now once again. So we're lucky here in the Midwest because we have a wonderful bead show every fall and spring, sponsored by Dakota Stones and Goody Beads. And we have demos and all kinds of products that are available. I find myself getting way too excited about things like that. I always set a budget and I always blow it. And I hope my husband isn't watching because he knows I'm naughty and that sort of thing. But I love watching Kelly's Bead Boutique on YouTube. She's from Vancouver. And Tori from Goody Beads. And Irene Minch, who's Electrica Beads in Wisconsin. And then many of the companies put on a lot of basic or more complicated YouTube videos, and Beadaholic is wonderful to watch as well. There are many of them out there. Today, I thought I would demonstrate the Chakra Bracelet, which will be both with a elastic and then with a clasp, and then a dangle chakra earring, which is a lot of fun. And I love the colorful beads. And I have been doing yoga for years. And so the chakra is a part of our yoga experience. And each bead has a certain place in our body as far as building energy and helping flow through life. So each of these beads are representative of different parts on our chakra. The red is a base, and that is a spine. And orange is sacral. Yellow is solar plexus. Heart is the green, which is the center of both ends of the chakra. Throat is light blue. Third eye, indigo. And the crown is violet. You may notice that these are the colors of the rainbow, or as my husband says, Roy G. Bib. I can't say it, but he does. Anyway, that's how he remembers them, and sometimes I can too. So this is a wonderful tool to, if you meditate, you can just think of each of these beads and each bead what they symbolize. Or you can just decorate yourself or your children or your grandchildren. So that's what I've been doing. I seem to be quite prolific making all these things. So I'm passing them on to my kids and my grandkids. And I also try, now that my house is filled, I've been trying to sell a little bit through some markets, farmers markets, both in Excelsior and Minnetonka. And I've been in some art shows. I've done the Carver County Art Walk, which is a beautiful 3-day show in September. And I've done lots of house sales, but I seem to produce more than I sell, which is fine because I like to make what I like, and then I can wear it or give it as gifts. So let's start with the chakra. Oh, one thing, I don't know if most of you probably know the tools, but a good tool is really important. And I think it takes you using them to figure out what you really like. I have, well, I guess I'm not quite in there, but I have, Ricky, well, This is a wonderful chain nose pliers, and I use this a lot. I guess I bought this at Taylor Falls Bead Shop, which is a great place. We're lucky in the Twin Cities to still have a few really wonderful bead shops. Bobby Bead, Lotus at Mall of America, Taylor Falls Bead Shop, which is a great trip, day trip. And there's Storm Cloud in St. Paul. And I think that Bead Hive is still with us in Minneapolis. And then I also buy online. And unfortunately, during the pandemic, I really discovered how fast I can get things through Amazon. So it's amazing what they have available to use. This is another chain nose pliers, and I like to have two just in case when you're twisting with your jump rings or your eye pins. It's nice to have two of them to get together. This is a crimper, and this is for closing a crimp to finish off a necklace or bracelet or earrings. And it's amazing little tool. These are round nose pliers. They're great for wrapping and making loops. And I hope to get to that to show you later on. And the nipper is wonderful for cutting everything. I have had 3 or 4 of them. I bought a really good one and I keep putting it down to save it. Now I not sure where I put it, but I can hide my own Easter eggs too. So that's great. I'll find it someday. Anyway, moving on, move on to that first bracelet, which is the Chakra Bracelet on elastic. And I like to use Stretch Magic, which there are several different kinds out there, but this just seems to work the best for me. And I generally use a size 8mm, but it goes from, I believe, size 3 or 4 to 1.5mm. For average bracelet, which would be about 7 inches, I'll cut probably 12 inches. And I'm going to use my scissors for this. This is another important tool, your scissors. And then I'll stretch it because it needs to be a little tempered. And don't try to pull it real hard, but I do give it a couple good tugs. And then we start by putting on a bead stopper. I'm going to take it off of this one and put it on here because beads tend to roll everywhere. And I have a ceramic floor in my kitchen where I do most of my beading, and they bounce off of everything. And they hide in the foyer and go down in the basement and end up in the family room. So it's a good thing to use a bead stopper. Just makes it a little less challenging. This is one I've strung, but you just basically start with, I like to start with a silver bead because then I can eventually hide my knot, which is how you close the elastic after you've strung all your beads. So I'll just put the silver one on and yeah, red, orange, yellow, oops, green, blue, whoops, this is green. Blue, indigo, and violet. And then one more silver bead. And I'm doing this with 8mm beads for several reasons. Number one, I can see them better. And they're also go faster. You can use any type of bead you like. I've used onyx. This is the lava beads, which are great because you can put essential oils in them. I've used clear crystals, and I don't think there's a set thing that you have to. This, you can use anything you like. If you happen to have some extra beads around, and you have, I think it takes 13 for the, let me check here, sorry. 13 for the, yeah, 13 black for the 8mm. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. And then I thought I had one ready, but this won't take too long. The joy of elastic is you can put almost anything on here. I have chunks of Larimar on it, elastic, and it's a simple bracelet. I just love it. I wear it all the time. I also have this one in pink, which is calming. It's pink quartz. And I felt like I might need a little calming today. So I put that on. Was there a question?
I think you're doing great. It's
Okay.
explaining all the
Yep.
basics. So far, so good.
All
Yep,
right.
no questions yet. Gail, you must be doing a great job because everybody must be understanding.
Either that or they're
So,
napping.
no. That'll never happen.
Oh,
So keep up the good.
well, good. My husband is retired, but unfortunately he retired a month before the pandemic hit. And so he's been watching me make jewelry every day for the last year because this is what I needed to do to keep myself sane and occupied. And he's such a kind man because I would say, "Oh, look at this. Isn't this great?" And he'd go, "Yeah," every day. So I appreciate how he has encouraged me. He's also been set up my LLC, and he files my taxes for me. And so he's been very encouraging about everything that I've done. I think he's a little sick of all my beads all over the place, though, because sometimes he hardly has a place to eat on the kitchen table. But he still gets pretty good meals, so I guess that can make up for it. So 13, all right. Now, there are several different knots that you can use. I find, and I stretch this again because that'll give it a little more flexibility. I find the good old-fashioned square knot to work the best for me. So I do a left over right and pull it really tight. And stretch it. And a right over left. and stretch it again. And just for good measure, I do it again. So left over right. Right over left.
Gail, there's a question
Yeah.
and they want to know, would you ever use more than one set of the chakra colors on a bracelet, or is that considered too much energy?
Oh, no, I think that would be great. I mean, you could do the whole bracelet in chakra colors if you wanted, I would imagine. I mean, I don't think it would be too much energy. I can't conceive of too much energy, but but I think that would be really pretty. The fun thing about making jewelry is you can be in a class with 10 people and you're all working on the same project, and not one of the projects turns out the same because everyone puts their own ideas into each piece. And that's why I guess I love this, because I can look at someone else's and appreciate what they've done, and mine looks totally different. And so it's a wonderful way to learn and to I mean, even to imitate is I guess, what do they say, that's the highest form of appreciation, or their your I don't know, imitation is one of the highest forms of appreciation. So I learned this yesterday from Rochelle. Thank you very much. I've been trying to glue. I always try to put a little bit of glue. Can you see it? Maybe not. There. On the knot. And she suggested using a pop can. I've been using tin foil and trying to make little troughs, and that's not particularly the best way to do it, but it works for me. But this is much better. So now all you do is take, oops, lucite, and put it right on the dot. There you go. And if you get too much, you wipe it off. And now you just let it dry. I let it dry probably a couple hours just to be sure. And then I'll trim off these tails after it's dried. And then you're ready to wear it, and you've got a finished product. Well, there you go. Now, can you see that? Now, if you were to make the same bracelet with, I'm going to put this bead stopper back on because otherwise I'll lose all my beads. Practice what I preach. Okay, and now we can move to the bracelet on wire. And I'm now, again, I use soft flex, medium weight. It just depends on what you like. And I guess it just comes from experiencing different products. This has been my go-to for 11 years. So, and it comes in fine and it comes in heavy. So if you have heavier beads or tiny, tiny little beads, you can string them on that as well. Again, I will probably do about 12 inches. Just, I like extra. I once ran out of room after I made a woven bracelet. I couldn't make the closing on it because I didn't cut off enough leather, and I made me so mad. I thought, I don't care. I'm just gonna from now on be extra generous and just make sure I can close things. So this is what the bracelet will look like once it's strung. But I string it with the middle beads in the middle and then go out to either side because the clasp will go on here and you want it to ride on your wrist like this. With the elastic, you can move it around any way you want to, but with the clasp, you need to bead from the center out. So pretend I've beaded this again, and here we have our bracelet. Again, it's about a little over 6 inches. The clasp will take up approximately an inch. So that'll add a little. Even if your wrist is only 6 3/4 or 6.5 inches, you don't want to have it exactly the same length as your wrist because it'll be tight and uncomfortable. This gives it a little wiggle room, which makes it a lot easier to use. Or yes, and put on. You can use, this is called a toggle clasp. You could also use a magnetic clasp. Now this is not as large, so you might want to add 1 extra bead with that to make it about an extra inch. You could also use just a regular oven. Okay, I'm blanking. I'm blanking on this one. Just a hook, right?
Oh, lobster clasp?
Lobster clasp. Thank you.
You're welcome. Took
It
me a minute.
takes a village. But lobster clasps are great, and they're secure. But again, this is small, so you'd probably want to add another bead to make it about an inch. You'll get some more length with your jump ring, but not that much. And now, here is the secret to adding a jump ring. The reason I like 2 chain nose pliers is because you can use both of them to open and close a jump ring. And to open a jump ring, you always shift it. Okay, where's the opening? You bend away and toward you like that. Can you see that? Away and toward you. Let me do it again. You don't ever want to pull it this way. It weakens the jump ring. It could break the jump ring. So you pull it away and you hold it with both of them. There you go. And twist. So now I'm going to put this on the toggle. And the toggle quite often will need 2 jump rings because you need more room to manipulate the toggle into the round part. So now you twist it back and you click. I heard that click. So that is secure. Now you can attach the other ring. And you want to twist. Sometimes you go past and back and push in. And usually I have a magnifying glass that I use just to check on it. I'm going to just check to see. This is, oh, that looks pretty good for doing it in the dark. Okay. Now, the toggle itself, you can put on the wire, but that it stresses the wire. So you might want to put another jump ring on that. And twisting again. Twist away. And then twist it back. And now that's not quite set. So sometimes if you use your tongue and your mouth, manipulate it without touching it really to your tongue and your mouth, but just making faces helps. All right. Okay. Sometimes I mess them up. That looks pretty good. There. All right. Now, the next thing is to put on a crimp. Crimps come in all different kinds of metals. I prefer a sterling silver metal, and I use 2x2, but you can use any type of crimp that you like. These are a little more expensive, but I just feel after years of trying other things that these hold better. So I'm going to do one end at a time. The first end is always the easiest because you can play with it. Okay, here's the little tiny crimp. And now you put that on. Thread it through the jump ring. I can see my jump ring is not quite right. I'll have to fix it afterwards. It is not right. I'm going to fix it right now. Because that's not going to. If the jump ring isn't secure, your wire will slip through the. Slip through the opening, and then you've lost your clasp. So, okay. Now I'm putting that through, threading it back through, and I'm going to give this a little more room because, oh, hello. That's the thing about metal magnets, they stick to everything. Okay, now thread this back through. I don't know, can you see? Probably not. There, through the crimp, and then back through the bead itself. Easy. And again, making faces helps. Okay, I'm not going to go through. There we go. Come on, buddy. Okay, well, this bead hole is not as large as some of the other ones. All right, there. Okay, so I like to, if I can, put the wire back through at least a couple of beads. Just, I feel that it's more secure. And then I'm going to put this back on before these go flying. Okay, and I like to bring up the wire fairly closely to the jump ring so that you have just a small loop. Now this, as I said, the first one is always the easiest one. And in order to crimp, you go to the back hole first, and then you go to the front hole. So I heard this called the taco once. I kind of like that. So we'll take our taco and smash it in the second hole. And it might take a couple of, there we go. So now we have a fairly secured round part of the toggle. And I like to pull on it just a little to see if it gives. It doesn't. So that part was successful. Now, the second part. And this one, take another crimp and there. Put it on our wire. Thread it through the second jump ring. Back through the crimp. Through the bead. And hopefully through a couple beads. There we go. And now we want to snug it up as best we can. So I use my fingernails and to try to pull it down, and then pull this wire as I'm pulling this down. Then I check to see how is it hanging. Is it, you can pull it down a little more. Pull it down a little more. And then pull the crimp down. Secure that. All right, that looks pretty good. Sometimes it takes more manipulation to get the beads down. And I know some people cut this excess wire before they close this, but I like to make sure everything is secured before I cut it. I've had too many accidents where things have fallen apart. So even if there's a little space, it'll still sit nicely on without being too loose. Oops, too loose. Here, I'm trying to, there. All right. And now, in the back, making the taco, and then crimping in the front hole, the crimper. Maybe that's the enchilada. There, and I'm checking that. Now I go back. I try to get as close as I can. Sometimes I have to go back in and cut it more than once. Let's see, can you see this? Okay, and sometimes the wire will go into the second bead. This one is not quite. Okay. When you do this, you have to be careful not to catch the beading wire, just the end wire, and nip off that little extra. I need to get sharper. Right, where are my expensive new ones? Anyway, we'll pretend that came off and I'll find my other clippers. Then go to the other end, clip that one off. As close as you can. That's the problem. Now this little tail, I'll go back and try to clip off again. Suddenly, I need new clippers. No, that's not good. Okay. There. That's not off either, but it's, you get the point. And there, the toggle works. Now to finish it completely, you want to take some bead Crimp covers. Okay, my light went out. That's why it's darker in here. And these all go right on. This is a little bit of a finishing, makes it look just a little more finished. I've heard of people doing it with the crimper, but I prefer using my long nose or chain nose pliers. Again, there's no set rule. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm trying to hold it with my finger as well and then squeeze and squeeze. Nope, get back on there. There we go. All right, now you just sort of manipulate it around a little bit and close the gap. Take the subway. Mind the gap. So there we go. Now we can go to the other side.
So are you minding the gap on the tube there, Gail?
Pardon me?
Are you minding the gap on the tube?
Yes, you noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Just tickled me all of a sudden.
I know, you see those signs all over London. Mind the gap.
Yep, yep. So here we are, minding the gap on this side. And I'm pushing it up with my thumb, my index finger, and slowly squish it a little bit. I love the technical terms, the squishing and the nipping and the there. Okay. So now we have a finished bracelet. And with this technique, you can do just about anything, any kind of beading or stringing that you might want to do. And I could try it on, I guess. Oh, and it fits. Well, there. Okay. So now I have entirely more jewelry than I ever wear. All right. The next thing I was going to try to teach is some chakra earrings. And I started off with these beautiful little circles that I got from Goody Beads online, but trying to see those little holes without magnification for my old eyes was a little difficult. So I made them in a little bit bigger size. So that worked really well as far as seeing. And these circles are great because you can just, where did I put them? Here they are. In order to open them up, they come in a package like this, and they come, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 to a package. And I know that Goody Beads has them. I know Bobby Beads also has them. I would imagine that Lotus does as well. But they're really easy to use. You can just take them out of the package. Oh, they're all hooked together. Okay, well, one side is loose, so you just give it a small yank. And then you can open it up. And all you have to do is string on the beads. Now, where did I put them all? Here. I have these all set up. And well, all right. Well, these are for the bracelets, but this will work. These are too big. Let me see. Oh, right here. These are size 6 millimeter. These are 4 millimeter. Oops, can you see that? No. So now it's frozen, so I can't see it. This is 6. And these are 4 millimeters. So depending on what size you like, you can certainly make those. I love the larger size. So I'm going to string these on again. You just slide them on. And red. Oops. Someone invented a bib, a beading bib, so you can wear it and you catch all your beads, which is great because I lose a lot of them. The red one is a little tight, but that's okay. Oh, a tool that you can use on more pearls and softer beads, not glass beads, but is an owl, a little reamer. And sometimes you can enlarge the hole so that you don't have to struggle with it going on something. Sometimes you can break it and then you start over. My husband told me that he always tells a joke at the very beginning when he teaches, but I didn't want to tell any of his jokes. For those of you who know my husband, he's a funny guy, but sometimes he's inappropriate. So I learned a joke from my golf buddy that I thought was cute. And because I'm blonde, I thought I could tell it. So the blonde went in to the library. And she walked up to the librarian and she said, "I'll have a cheeseburger and Coke." And the librarian said, "This is a library." And the blonde said, "Ooh, I'll have a cheeseburger and Coke." That's my joke.
Okay, I'm not blonde, but I'm laughing at that.
I liked it. All right, now we have them all on a on the wire. We can reinsert this little wire into the trap here. And then you gently squeeze, 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 and voila. The beads are secure. Now, I had a jump ring here. You could make this so it hangs this way, which is forward. Or if you add a jump ring, it will hang sideways. And that just depends on which way you like it. So I'm going to add a little jump ring. Maybe I will, and maybe I won't. Oh, these jump rings are okay. Almost too big for the hole. And then twist, click, back again. Now, when you put on a wire, it's the same basic way that you do a jump ring. The earring wire, and I tend to use either sterling or now I use stainless steel too, because people react to some of the base metal ones, and generally people with sensitive ears will not react to stainless steel or sterling. Now, to open an ear wire, it's like a jump ring. You twist it away from you, insert the jump ring, and then twist it back and make sure that it's closed against the wire. And there you have an earring that sits sideways instead of straight on. Oops, now I don't know which way to move them there. I did forget to show you how to use an eye pin, which we can make another earring out of if we want. So an eye pin has, let's see, a circle at the bottom. There's also just a regular head pin, which has a head at the bottom. Whoops, oh, that one's a bad one. Oh, that one's kind of bent, and that just has the top on it. But that you can use to make a very simple earring. I have some charms, and well, I put a charm on that eye pin. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna sing Lucky Charms. Here we are. These are an Om symbol and an Om charm, again, with the yoga or chakra theme. Okay, just like the earring wire and the jump ring, you open the eye pin and you bend it away from you. Put on your charm, bend it back and secure it so that there's no gap in between the hole and the wire. And then I happen to have some beautiful jade beads. You can just stick a jade bead on there. And drop it. And I have some silver pieces, or you could use this type of silver piece. Just put a silver stop. My mother was a painter, and everything had to be in threes. She just drummed that into me. Okay, I'm not thrilled with that, so I'm going to try something else. So everything I do has pieces in threes. 1, 2, 3, or odd numbers. That's better, but it's not great. Or we have some crystal beads. And I just happen to have some right here. Let's try this. That's why I like to experiment, try different things, and lost my scissors. Come on, scissors. Well, now I know why my clippers are getting weak, less sharp, because I'm using it on thread. Nothing's hitting me. All right, I like the silver one better. Let's go back to that. And now we can make a loop or a wrap that you can secure to the earring wire. In order to do that, I take my round nose pliers. No, first I take my chain nose pliers and bend it as close to the silver as I can, and carefully bend it over like that with my fingers. Then I take my chain nose pliers. Go up and wrap it around, all the way around and down. And then I go through the hole, the loop with my round nose pliers, and take the wire again and wrap it to the side. Now I grab my chain nose pliers and I use my fingers to wrap the wire around and to make it tight and secure. And because this is such a big whole bead, it might not sit as well. Oh, it's not bad. There. Now it's a little wonky. So there's nothing wrong with straightening it out. And we go in and we take off that little burr and always cover it when you cut it because it goes flying. Otherwise it could shoot your eye out. That's our favorite movie at Christmas. And now all you have to do is attach it to the wire of the earring wire. Again, open it, pushing it sideways, attach it to the hoops. That's what happens when you have too big of a hole. Attach it to the hoop and pull it back. And now that looks terrible because this was too large of a hole to use on that. But your ear wire is attached. Now what I do with these sort of things is go back and go, okay, let's start again. Because you can. So I'll just cut this off. Or no, I'll take it off. Luckily, I'm in my bead room, so I can probably find another bead to use that's not as large a hole. I don't know, Maggie, do I still have time left? Or
You can have all the time you want, Gail. No worries. We're here till 4. So
what time is it?
it is 2:08.
Oh, no.
I'll start or whenever you're done. And then,
Well,
so no worries. Take your time, darling.
well, I could just show you. I'll put this bead on and I will try it again. One more time with feeling and then I'll be done. So I must have had a lot of fun because I had no idea what time it was. All right. You bend the wire to make a loop, bend the wire over. Insert the round nose plier, bring it up, over, and around. Then reinsert the round nose plier in the loop and bring your tail back behind. Hold on to your loop and twist it around with your thumb and finger. I guess you could use another pliers, but that just to me gets in the way. Well, that's much better. Take off that nub. Still looks like it's the little nubby there. I need to come into your shop, Rochelle, and buy some new cutters. Can you have them sharpened? That's a question I have. Can you have your cutters sharpened? Your wire cutters?
No, well, it depends on the type of wire cutters you have. I've heard some of the really good ones you send them in to be sharpened. Otherwise,
Just buy. Part of I think the fun of any hobby is all the tools that you get to buy. So there we go.
I've got a really fancy set of wire cutters, Gail, and my sweetheart Sean, who you guys met earlier, he actually sharpens them using a little knife sharpener for me.
Oh, wow.
But mine are really fancy ones, so I don't want to buy them again.
No.
But if I don't know if, if they're, my theory is if they're not very expensive ones, then what do you have to lose by trying to sharpen them? If you're going to plan on buying some anyway, you might as well try to sharpen them first.
Sure, sure. That's
So
great.
he just uses the little stone that he sharpens my kitchen knives with when he does it.
Okay. Well, I always send my knives to Lund's or Byerly's because they used to be, I don't know if they still do that, but they would sharpen your 1 or 2 knives for free for a minimal cost. And it was great, but I don't know that they would do. I don't know if they would do cutters. So I have only spent a lot of money on one pair of wire cutters, and those are the ones I can't find right now. So and there is your earring with the eye pin and wire, and that's my basic knowledge for the day. I had lots of fun. I hope you did too, and I hope you can take this and now just create all kinds of bracelets and necklaces and earrings and just fly with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. We're
Thank
really
you. Michelle.
now ready to have chakra energy, and for summer solstice, our Juneteenth, our Father's Day. So make some energy and give them to your friends. Spread the positive energy around.
There you go. That's great. That sounds wonderful.
Doesn't it though? I
Yeah.
know. And so I am.
Did you watch me?
Whoops. Okay. So there we go. We are now going to learn all kinds of wonderful things about branch fringe. In earlier designs, we've learned about a bunch of other kinds of fringe, but branch fringe is super fun. It can be very simple. It can be complicated. But you know, we're going to start simple, and then it leaves it to your imagination. So what a branch fringe is this really fun little kind of, just think of a tree branch. So it has a center core, and that's the tallest one. And then there's a right arm and a left arm. So on our branches today, we're going to have basically, it'll look like a little person. So it's a little head and a little arm on each side. So depending on what you want to do, this is a bracelet that we just have one little fun fringe in between each one. So then when you wear it, it has a lot of movability. It has some really fun texture and a little chaos going on. If you're not quite into that amount of crazy fringe, you can just make a sweet little simple earring as well. And so each one of these little earrings is that same identical branch fringe. We just made the trunk of the tree a whole lot longer. And then the center has the largest bead, focal bead on the bottom. And then each of the other little branches has a smaller focal bead. And it just gives a little delicacy to it when you add some different fun things. So these are crystal pearls, and then these are crystal bicones. And at the end of each of your focal bead, you can just use, I used 3 15-0s and made a little picot on the end. And so it is then just very simple and very call it a delicate ending to the end. So it really just, it acts the stopper bead to hold the bead on basically, but using 3 little 15-ohs. It's called a picot. And so it's just a fun, simple way of doing it. So we're going to show you basically how to do it. And I'm using, this bracelet is 6mm fire polish for the core and size 11 Toho seed beads for each of the trees and their branches. And then we have the little focal beads on the end with the 15-0 stoppers. So that's exactly what we did. And I strung on 1G thread is what I'm using today. You could use Fireline if you want to, depending on the beads you're using. I really think that the color is important. So I am using these beads that are, they're color lined. So the outside is transparent, the inside is colored. So you're going to see whatever I put through it. So if I put a dark black thread, it would really darken down this project. So I'm using the light teal. It's a teal, blue, green thread for this particular project. And what I usually do is just put a stopper bead on my thread and I bead straight off of my bobbin. And so you don't have to cut your thread to begin with, but I have 1 arm length of thread that I'm working with. And then I have my bobbin and my little stopper bead. So I strung on 25 beads and I just laid it on my ruler to make sure that once I added the clasp and everything, that I had the right size to go around my wrist. And so I'm using one of these little symbols, magnetic clasps for this one. And usually I like to use a wire guardian with the magnets, but this one has these fun new edges. So it creates its own wire guardian. And then it's a protective and you can open and close it really easy with using your hand. So I feel confident I don't have to use a wire guardian on this one. So I strung 25 beads and then I have just a little 11-0 on the end and then an 11-0 seed bead on each side. Then I went through the clasp, added an 11, and then I shared the joint 11-0 bead. So it's a tiny little picot right on the end. And then I went all the way back through my clasp, through the whole bracelet just to secure my core and to make sure I've got my length right. So now I'm on the other end. I want to put this side of my bracelet on. So we are going to make sure you clear your little playing field. And here's my stopper bead over here. So we're going to use this tail thread later to continue to bead. I usually do not make any knots in my fringes because that's usually when something breaks. Usually if something's really tight and constrictive, you've got force against it. But if you have a move and a flow, then it can actually go where it wants to go and there's no strain on the thread. So usually that's the issue when things break, is you've got too much tension going on and then the knots. So there's no place for anything to move. So I want to just add, like I said, on this side of my clasp, I'm adding 2 11-0 seed beads, and then I'm passing through the other side of my clasp.
Rochelle, can I interrupt you for just a second? Oh,
Yeah.
there, now it's stopped. This sounds like somebody's running an engine somewhere.
Well, let me turn off the air conditioner.
Oh, that's what it is. I thought somebody had taken their little laptop phone and went out in the garage.
Oh yeah, so sorry the air conditioner popped on. We have it on automatic to keep it at 75 in here. And so I just turned it off. I apologize.
Oh, don't. I just wondered what it was. So no
Yeah,
problem.
No, I was wondering if it was going to be too loud or not so
What kind of weather you guys got there in the upper Midwest these days?
it's beautiful today. Today is our most fabulous low humidity, high 80. I mean, blue sky. You couldn't ask for a more perfect summer day. And so today is the day. And then tonight and tomorrow is thunderstorms. So we have to get out and enjoy it today. The heat, humidity is gone. And oh my God, it's beautiful. What is it like out on the West Coast right now?
Exactly the same.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. So I did the exact same thing on the other side of my clasp. I added one 11-0, and then I went back through the joined 11-0 right next to my first size 6 fire polish bead. And so this is where we're going to make our first branch fringe. It's in between the first 2 size 6-0 fire polish beads. And generally I just wrap the thread right around my finger to hold the tension. Like I said, there's no knots, so it will slide if you let it. So after the first fringe, it's going to hold for you. So generally, I'm going to pop up my pattern here so that you can see it really quickly. We were just here a moment ago. Branch fringe, where did you go? Oh my gosh, come on. So, oh, files. Sorry. Nope. I had it up earlier. Goodness gracious, golly jeepers. It's just like,
I love that.
oh God, yeah. I probably accidentally closed it on my computer, so I apologize to all you folks who are just sitting there hanging out going, what's going on here? And so we will pull back up the file folder again, and hopefully you'll all be able to see it. Okay, so now we share the folder. Advanced, no. Oh goodness gracious golly. Why? Oh, here we go. See, I told you it would come up the moment I just got distracted. Okay. So this is the core I was telling you about, and you can make it with a single hole bead, or you could make it with a 2-hole bead. It is really a versatile thing. You just want to have a nice core. So on these 2-hole beads, I put one 11-0 in between each one. And if you want to look at the small little camera here, this is my sample that I made with bricks. And this is called Siren's Bobble bracelet. And Nicole Starman named it after me. This was my Starman Trendsetter project. So it's got the bricks, and then I've got one 11-0. So I'm putting a fringe on each side of those 11s. But you can really make it full if you wanted to. But so first, you make your core, put your clasp on, come back around, and then you put your first fringe is going to be right in between the first and second beads. So this is what the fringe look like. And I stagger the height of my fringes so that they don't clunk into each other. So you're going to add, I usually add 9 size 11-0 beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this fringe has 8. So 8 or 9. This one here probably has 9. And so that way each fringe is slightly different height, and they'll stack up instead of clunking. So you'll add your 9 11-0 seed beads, then you add your focal bead, and then add your 3 15-0 beads, and it's a picot. So then pass down through the focal bead again. So those 3 beads you just added will come right down and make a stopper point. So then you pass through 1, 2, 3 of those 11-0 beads. Then we're going to make our first branch. So add 3 more 11-0 beads and then add a smaller focal bead. The one in the top center here I have as a 6 millimeter. The second one here is a 4 millimeter. That way there's a nice graduation of sizes. And then you'll add 3 picots on the end, 3 bead picot, back down through the 3 you just added, and then go 1 more in the trunk of the tree so that it's staggered just a little bit. And then you're going to add 3 more 11-0s and then add a smaller focal bead. So this one here could be a 3 millimeter or a 2 millimeter, something that's very, you know, delicate, demure, and maybe change the size or shape. So instead of using a round, use a fire polish, use a melon, use a rondelle or something like that. And then put your 3 bead picot and then pass down through the 3 beads you just added. And then you'll pass down through the 4 beads of the center part of the trunk of the tree. And then we move forward through the next core bead, and then we create the next fringe. So since this one had 8 tall, the next one's going to have 9 tall. And then we're going to change maybe the color of the trunk of the tree. So we'll use a different size 11-0 and some different size focal beads. And so now that you've seen the pattern, we're going to show you how to do it in person. And I know it's just going to be so much fun. You're going to be fringing away before you know it. Like I said, I usually wrap the thread around my first finger and hold it with my second finger. And then we pick up, I'm going to pick up 8 beads in the first one. And then we'll make the second one 9. So I know it's painful to watch a person count beads, but it's just part of the reason why you have a long needle. That way you can count the beads on your needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so there we go. Then we're going to add our focal bead. So this one, I'm just going to use a 4 millimeter round. And then I'm going to add my 3 bead picot on the top. And I know it's a clear, here I'll use a purple bead instead of a clear one so that you can see it better. The 15-0s are really tiny, but they're just so cute. So don't be afraid of 15s, honestly. A size 10 needle will go through a 15. You don't have to go down in a needle size. So I added my 3 beads, the 15. So I'm going to turn around and pass through the focal bead and 3 beads after it. And I just pinch my beadwork with my first 2 fingers to hold that picot right on top of there. And then don't pull too tight. On fringe, you should never have too much tension. Tight tension is kind of, you'll break your thread and everything. So we add 3 more 11-0s. Then we're going to add a different focal bead. Remember, something that's a little smaller. So I had a round there. Now I'm going to add a fire polish. Then add your 3 15-0s again on the top. You could also use 1 11-0. You just want a stopper bead basically. So you certainly could use 1 single 11-0 if you wanted to. And I usually shift my fingers to once again hold the tension on the fringe I'm working on. And then I turn around and we skip the 3 you just added, pass down through the focal bead, the 3 new ones you just added, and 1 more in the trunk of the tree. And I pass my thread and guide it while I'm pulling it so that the little 15-0s on the second branch will sit right. If they don't sit right, then just pull them with your finger so that then they can sit right. So now I'm pinching that with my finger and holding the thread. So we add the last branch of the tree. So that's 3 11-0s. And then I'm going to add a smaller fire polish. This one is only a 2mm fire polish. It's just a cute little baby. And then the 3. And if you have to drop it to slide your beads down, that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Just guide your thread, and when your needle comes off your thread, because the eye of these size 10 needles are so giant, sometimes the 1G thread slips through, so you can just re-thread your needle, or needle your thread, as I say. And then you're going to skip the 15-0s that you just added, pass down through the focal bead you added, and then oops, get out of the way so y'all can see. There you go. And then you'll pass down through the rest of the tree trunk. And so now we have our first fringe. So then you want to move forward to the next one through the core bead, and we're going to add our next fringe. So this one had 9 beads. Or 8 beads. So we're going to add 9 beads on this one, and we're going to do it a different color. That way you get some variety, some variance here, and you can tell just the difference in the bead fringes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is a blue line bead with teal and a gold fuming. So we're mixing all this beautiful like aqua teal and purple. So now I've got my main core of my 11-0s, and we need our new focal bead on the top. And if you want to create something bigger and more accenting, then just use a bigger focal bead on the top. And that way you'll have a fun accent. And then if you wanted to use, instead of the 15-0s on top, you could use anything you wanted. So just take a little 2mm, and then I'm going to take one 15-0. It's my stopper bead, and I'm just going to create this little teeny focal bead here right on the top. So now go down 3 beads. You just have your top focal at the top of the tree. So it's the biggest one. So go down 3 beads, and then we're going to make our next branch. And you can hold on to the end and pull taut your thread, and that way it'll make the little picot on the top sit down better. So now we're going to add 3 beads. And then a smaller focal bead, remember, because this is the top of the second. So we're going to add a smaller one, and then your little picot. So it's quite repetitive, quite repetitive, over and over and over and over again. And depending on how many fringes you like, it'll be either really, really full or really, really open. It's just, there's no right or wrong, rhyme or reason. It's just your imagination. So the core beads, however big you have those, will determine the spacing between your fringes. So if your core beads are big, then your fringes will be spaced out quite a ways. If your core beads are really, really small, like this one, then your fringes will be really close together. Here on this one, I used size 8-0 round core beads. So that way the fringes are really close together, but you get a really soft look. And so on this one, all I did was I picoed with size 11 of a different color. I took 8 seed beads, one color, and then I did an 11-0 picot on the top of each branch. And then every 10th fringe on the top, I put a 4mm bicone with one little 11-0 as a stopper bead. And so that way it looks more kind of like seaweed, I think. But when you use bigger focal beads, you really get a lot more fun. You get a lot more texture. You get a lot more just design element. It's not so monochromatic, sort of. And so we're going all the way down the center branch, the tree trunk, basically. Like I said, if your 15-0s don't sit right, just pull the center 15-0 and it will picot in that little. And so now we have a second branch on our bracelet. So I think it's just super fun to create kind of whatever you want to do with the simplicity of it. If you would like to create something more really garden-like, you could take a whole variety of Czech glass beads and use something like this as your core. And that way you would get a whole lot of texture and dimension with your bracelets. And the gardens turn out a little different when you turn them into a garden. And so this is one of the garden bracelets, and it has a 6mm core, but each one of these has a little flower Czech bead or a fun little dagger, or it's, you know, to create a garden like. So you can add your extra pieces, parts really easy to, you know, create some depth and dimension. It's really neat. And so that way, you know, having a lot of fun, and that way all your little focal beads can be a lot more mixed, a lot more varied. And so on the garden, I would really recommend, you know, just going through your bead stash. You probably got piles and piles of stuff, right? That is just all random, kind of goes together. But yet there's not enough to make one solid thing. And so I do think that the earrings are really a lot of fun. And so having the earrings is very simple. It doesn't take very long to make. And you can really do, you know, kind of your own style, your own finish. So these here had a simple straight branch with 3 of them on there. This one here, I used, these are the symbols findings as well, and they bead right in there. This one's the shape of a ginkgo. And so I just beaded right through and used that then with my ear wire. And this one here is a ginkgo post. And so on the very top of it, you jump from one hole to the other, and I used a couple of 11s. But it's really fun to add a little bit more texture and dimension if you want to, and change colors, add a couple more fringe. So I'll show you really quick how to do the earrings with these neat little ginkgo components. They also come in like a gem duo shape. They come in a mini duo shape. They come in all the different Czech bead shapes. But this one is a post with this the 24 karat gold plating, and then has the surgical steel post. So it goes with all your different fun beads. So what I did with this was the same. I put a stopper 11-0 bead on there, and I went down through the hole of the ginkgo ear wire so that it stayed there. And then to make the fringe, I just counted out the beads in the different colors. There you go, that's more in focus. And so you can make them as long as you want, as short as you want. And so I made a fun little pattern. So we use 3 of the gold perma finish beads, And then I used 5 green beads. And then I used a little pearl in between. Let's see, so it's a gold pearl. These are Czech glass pearls, and they come in all these fun new colors, and we've gotten a whole lot more of them in stock. And so if you, in your branches and trunks of your tree, if you intermix, you know, different shapes of beads, like I did here with the pearl, then your branch becomes decorated as well. And so once again, just at the very end, if you want to create your fringes, just count them out so that the bottom has the largest focal beads down on the bottom, and then come back up. And so I came back up 7 11 beads, and then the first branch I did here had 5 11 beads in the branch. That way, if at least it's 1 or 2 shorter, then you're going to have a little bit more depth and dimension on the end of your fringes here. And so, so just add the rest of your beads in your color pattern and just have some fun with it. Like I said, experiment, mix things up with fire polish, with crystals. We'll put an orange crystal on here. And then, you know, I mean, teacups are a lot of fun too. So these are the little Czech teacups, and they're about 3 millimeters. And so they act like a little bead cap. And so just put one of those on there, and then stick a little pearl in the middle of it, and then add a couple of 15s for your picot, and you'll have a really fun looking little decoration on the end of your fringe. And, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to what you can do. Like I said, I really recommend loose tension when you're doing any fringe. And earrings, I highly recommend using 1G instead of Fireline. For the bracelets, you can totally use Fireline. It's okay because all of your fringes are the same length. They're either 8 or 9 high. So if they stick up and stick out all over the place, that's okay. When you're doing earrings, the stronger the tension, the more they'll stick out. So the pink ones, I did really strong tension and pulled it a little bit more, and then went through them like 3 times so that they really stick out. Where the green and gold ones, I was working at trying to create the drape downward. And so Fireline wouldn't create such a nice drape. Only a nylon thread will do that. And if they get a little too tight, you can always pull on them and just pull the 1G thread, and then they'll hang straighter because it's nylon, it's stretchy, and so you can adjust it. And that's also part of the reason for not using any knots. When you're using a stopper bead, you can easily adjust your tension to what you would like to do. So I've got my stopper bead here, and my first fringe is really loose. So all you have to do is grab the little end and then pull on your thread, and then you can tighten it up to your ear wire. So now I've come up a few beads. I'm going to make my first branch here on my earring. And so there's no rhyme or reason to what you are supposed to do or not supposed to do. I just try to do things usually in odd numbers, 3s, 5s, 7s, 9s. It just looks nice. And then you always have a center bead as well that you can count on. And so after you add your 3 picots, you go back up. And so make sure you go the right direction. I just went back down. But you could go up or down if you wanted to. The idea is spread them out. And if you have any tension or any loose string in there, like I said, here's your stopper bead and you just pull it to stop. So I've got one little branch. And so I was going to make another branch up here. You don't have to have them all on the bottom. On earrings, you can have some more flexibility. On a bracelet, if you make them too much different lengths, then they kind of stick out sort of funny too. So, I don't know, there's a whole lot of, so all I do is I weave back and forth with my fringes. So I'll reinforce the fringe after I'm done to weave in my tails. And that way you don't have to make any knots. So I'm making my last branch and then we go all the way up and go back through the earring hole. So these are ginkgos. So there is one hole on each side of this ginkgo. Sorry, there we go. And don't run through your stopper bead. Remember, that's a stopper bead and it's a removable one. So you want to make sure that you don't accidentally treat it like a bead. You want to make sure that it's, so now I've got just my fun little fringe and I went up through the ginkgo hole and now I want to jump to the other side. So what I was going to do is just add, usually 3 beads is the amount of space on most of these 2-hole findings. So also 3 beads is a picot. So you kind of just remember 3. So jump to the other bead hole and then come down. Now we're right here and I can make the second part of my fringe on this side. And so you would count the same number of beads and then put the same thing down there if you wanted to, or you could make it different. And so then when you're done, you take this tail thread here and take off the stopper bead and then just go down through the fringe, reinforce that fringe, go back up through, go down and reinforce that fringe. So basically you're crisscrossing your threads on these fun little findings. And that way your threads are tied in there nice and tight. You've got your tension all just the way you like it. And there's no knots to hide or play with, you know? I mean, it's just that fun and simple and easy. So it's your creativity of what you come up with and what kind of beads you got laying around your house that you could add for focal beads. You know, this one I did, which is the exact same thing as this one here. This is just one fringe in between the 6mm fire polish. This one here has 2 fringes between every other one and 3 fringes. I alternated. I just wanted extra green. So I've got 2 pink and then every other one is a green. And you can do any kind of thing you want. I made a loop and a button, and that's a really fun clasp, a really easy way to do it too. So you can do any kind of clasp that you like. Usually on the buttons, I'll do a wire guardian so that you've got a really nice strong point and the button swivels. If you just add thread around the button, sometimes your button doesn't swivel. So just one single wire guardian on your button works really well. And then you've got your loop for the other side to go over the button. And that way there's no clasp on this side, it's just the loop. And so there's really any kind of clasp you would like to do on this. This one I made, which is all kinds of different crystal pearls on some of them, and then fire polish and Swarovski crystals. And I made another loop Even on this one, the loop is kind of fancy. It's got different stuff in the loop. And then this is my clasp. I just made a pearl 2-arm branch, and then the loop goes over the pearls. So you can even make a branch clasp if you like. And so there's my 2. You just have to use large enough beads so that they'll stay in that loop. And so these are, I believe, 10mm rounds that I used. And it's just a 2-arm branch, just like a peace sign on that one. So it's super fun. You can do anything you want, or these tiny little tiara cast buttons work really well too. They're just neat little, and they're kind of volley-esque. We've got those too. But this was before I found out about wire guardians. And so all of my thread is right here, glued back there. I made this for my mom 28 years ago, I believe. And it's made with silamide. So that's held on this whole time. So I would recommend using wire guardians, and then it won't look quite so bad. I don't know. Does anybody have any more questions about all the fun ideas you could do with branch fringe? There is several different colorways of Siren's Bobble bracelet. And like I said, those have the 2 whole bead core. And that way I could fit 5 fringes in between the 2. And so, yeah, I just had to go a little more crazy. And so that's why I did that. So it's just, you know, up to your imagination of what you want to do with all kinds of fun stuff. And so, but the only crazy part about fringes is you can't be frustrated when your thread gets caught around the fringe. It's just gonna happen. So sometimes what I do, if you're using a magnet clasp, I have a tool and then I stick my clasp to it, which is a magnet, and that way I can hold my fringes and my project out of my way. Or if you have a clip that you can hold your project to the edge of your bead board, like those big binder clips, or if you have a knotty board, that way you can hold some tension in your project and you can keep the fringes out of the way. But guiding your thread with your fingers while you pull it and hiding these fringes with your hand will also help, because that's the biggest frustration of doing this, is getting the thread caught around one of these and then it's folded flat and you're already 3 fringes, 4 fringes backwards, and you just realize that you've got a tangle. So just take 1 fringe at a time, make sure it sits all straight and clear before you move on to the next fringe, and you'll save yourself some frustration. That's pretty much my best advice for branch fringe, and work from one end to the other. If you want to do 2 fringe in between each, do both fringe and then move on, and then do both fringe and move on, and that way you'll get tangled less as well.
And don't try to set any speed records making it.
No, there is not. Your normal basic, like Siren's Bobble, making these takes about 14 hours because there's like 580 fringe. So, and you use a lot of crystals. So if you want, you know, like I said, you can just start out completely simple and just do 11 picos, because that's all this is. And all I did was change color right at the end. And so this one I made, the top 3 were all the same size. So it sticks out a little bit more, but they're just 11s, 100% 11s. And I just changed color. And then where my branches split, I have the different color, and then you just get the optical illusion. So with seed beads, there's a lot you can do with just the seed bead as well. So yeah, it's loads and loads of fun, huh?
Well,
Thank you.
thanks, Rochelle.
Are there any other questions?
Let's see. We have a comment on Facebook, fun to sign. I've done the branches on a necklace, more separated. So this is cool to see how to use them differently. Thank you for the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. And so next up, we have Erin Connor teaching us all about crochet. And so I'm not sure. There she is. And so we will, let's see, turn off this camera. And, oh wait, no, I can't. That's my speaker. Okay, so do we have you, Erin? So everybody get your crochet hook and get your thread out, or yarn, your big ball of yarn. And I've got my giant crochet hook, and I'm gonna learn how to crochet with Erin. So.
You guys hear me okay? Oh,
One of your volumes needs to turn off. You just, I think, double muted yourself, Erin. Both of your cameras are muted. So, which one do you want to, you have to unmute one of you, this one, unmute one of them. There you go, or unmute that one. There you go. So can we hear you now?
yeah, I think it's still got the reverb.
Change the volume on, lower the volume before you mute. And so, okay, how's that?
Hello? Sorry. I forgot how we did this last time.
It was the one on your crochet table that you had the volume on, and then the one on your face you had muted.
Can you hear me?
Thanks for your patience, everyone. Turn the volume off on your iPad and the volume on your phone.
Is that better?
Yes,
Good? Okay.
much
I
better.
don't know why that didn't work for me the first time. Sorry about that. I know the reverb is very annoying. And my dog wants to say hi too, apparently. Okay, gotta get down. Yep. Girl. All right, we all good, Rochelle?
You're fabulous.
All right, let's get started. I need to put the doggo in her kennel real quick because she's being a little needy right now. So I'll be right back in just a sec.
What's your dog's name?
This is Azure. She's just being a little needy because I just got home. So
Erin has a booth at the farmer's market in Minneapolis. So if you ever get down to the farmer's market, she is on the artisan side, which is the south side of the market, and the Retro Collective Company
Yes.
is her name, and you can find her every weekend there.
Yes, thank you for the plug, Rochelle. I just got back a little bit ago, so my dog thinks it's time to go to the park right now. And then you guys can see this okay with my camera here.
Yep, that looks good.
All right. Trying to see if I can zoom in at all for you, but it's not letting me, so hopefully that's okay. All right, so I'll get started. My name is Erin Connor. I'm the owner and artisan of the Retro Collective Company. I do resin jewelry, and then I do crocheted accessories as well as some crochet jewelry as well. So I wouldn't say I'm like an expert by any means at crocheting, but I have like learned a lot in the past 2 years. So yeah, I do know quite a bit, but it's very easy to learn, and it's pretty easy to like translate simple skills into more intricate patterns and stuff. And so what I'm going to go over today is just some sort of simple basics, and then how you can translate them into making something. So what I'm doing today, I have my bandana here. So I'll teach you guys how to make a crocheted bandana, which I can teach you how to do this, and then I sell these at my market. So it's super fun. Really, really easy. As you can see, it's like a simple stitch, just like repeated on itself. So it's super easy once you got this stitch down. We won't finish one in class today, but once you have it down, it's really easy to keep going until you have the right size for your head. So I'm going to start with some basics onto how we would be able to start that. So I'm going to usually use an ombre thread for the bandanas. You can also do them in just like one color if you want. I like doing the ombre thread because it's just kind of fun, and you don't have to switch colors. So it's just like continuous. You're not switching off colors at all, and it just does that for you. So what I have here, I'll just go over the materials really quick. I've got a bunch of different yarns. So I'm using this dark purple yarn. It's nothing special. I got it from Michael's. So I just get like value yarn. I don't usually buy anything super extravagant because crocheting can take a while to make things. So I like to spend my time making stuff as opposed to like having to spend a bunch of money on the materials themselves. So I've got some crochet hooks here. This is the one I'll be using today, is my 5mm. That is my favorite one to use because it creates like a good medium stitch where it's like not super, super tight, which I like for the bandanas because you don't want it to be like super tight. You want to be a little bit loose, or a looser stitch, I should say. So this is kind of what I have in my repertoire of crochet hooks. I have anywhere from a 2.25mm. As you can see, it's fairly small. And then I go all the way up to a 10. This is what I use to make like crochet rugs. So it really just depends on the yarn that you have and what you're trying to make. So this is what I use the most for like all of my crochet bandanas and hats. So this one is like my go-to, is my gold one here. So this one's 5mm. You guys can use what you feel comfortable with for beginners. And if you're not a beginner, obviously do what you feel comfortable with still. And then I also have a pair of fabric snips for the yarn. and a tapestry needle. You don't necessarily need a tapestry needle. I just like to use it for weaving in my ends because I find it a little bit easier to use a needle as opposed to a crochet hook for weaving in ends. I apologize, there's a car show going on near me right now. So if you hear any like cars going off in the distance, I live over by the fairgrounds and there's like a car show going on. So there's some like people revving their engines right now. So yeah, let's get started. I'm using my dark purple yarn. I'll get these out of the way so you can see what I'm doing better. And I've got my 5mm crochet hook. So the first thing I want to teach you guys how to make is a magic circle. It's super simple. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get like the hand work correctly and make sure that you're knotting it right. Like anything, just takes practice. So a magic circle is what I do to start off a lot of patterns when I'm working in the round. So like with knitting, crocheting, you can work in the round. So a magic circle is how I basically start off the very beginning of my bandana right here. You can see that's a little better. So this is my starting point right here. And then you're just working in rows for the triangle, but for squares, for granny squares, you usually work in the round, or for circles, you work in the round. So that's how I like to start on a lot of things. So we've got our thread, or our yarn, I should say. You've got your tail end. So your end here is called your tail end. And then the part that's connected to your skein or ball of yarn is called your working yarn. So obviously it's all connected, but this is like your working yarn back here. This is your tail end up front here. So for a magic circle, I like to hold between my middle finger and my thumb here. And what we're gonna do, get my hook out of the way first. We're gonna hold it here. We're gonna go back over my index finger and under. Then we're gonna go forward and go over my middle finger and then turn your hand. So we've got our tail end back here now and our working thread up here. And then we're gonna go over the index finger over and make an X and then hold that into place. So that's how you start right there. Show you that again. So we got our tail end holding between these two fingers. We go back under the index finger, under the middle finger, and go over. Twist your hand. So now your fingernails are pointing up. And then you're going to go back and create an X. All right, so we got our X now. And I'll show you how to complete the magic circle. We're gonna go in with our crochet hook with the hook side down. We're gonna go, so we've got this yarn right here and this yarn here. Just wanna make sure my lighting is okay. Rochelle, let me know if my lighting is not working very well. I have limited lighting in my apartment, so I have a light coming in over here, but I think it looks okay. So we're gonna go in with the crochet hook, go under this first yarn here facing out. So we're gonna go under here. And then we're gonna go over this yarn that I'm holding taut, my working yarn. And we're gonna grab it with our hook and pull forward. So we're going under our front yarn here. So I'll show you that. Got our X. A little bit more pronounced there. So we've got our X. We're going to go under this yarn, over this yarn, catching it, and then going under that first yarn. And then as you come up, you're going to twist your hook so that your hook is facing up. And then from there, this is probably the most complex part here. I'm just holding things taut for you. So that is how our little loop should look. So we've got this. We're going to go back under our working yarn and then pull it through like that. And then that is a magic circle. All you have to do is make it a little bit taut. So this turns into basically a slip knot here with a little loop. So it's essentially a slip knot with a loop that you work into. Super simple. I'll definitely show you guys that again. This is probably the most complex part of starting a pattern, is just getting this right. The magic circle definitely took me a few times to get down, and there would be times where I'd like stop crocheting for a while and I'd have to like relearn how to do it. But once you get the hang of it, it's super fast. So like I said, holding between these two fingers, going back with our working yarn under our index finger, going forward and under the middle finger and going up, twisting our hands toward us, and then creating that X, holding our working yarn back here. Sometimes it gets a little tangled. And then for this purpose, I'm just trying to create that X so we really have that defined of what we're doing. So with the crochet hook, we're going to go under this yarn here, grab the second yarn, the working yarn, move it towards us under that front loop, and then twist the hook as we come up. If you don't twist the hook, there's no like good way to bring this up facing you. So that's how we create that first loop so that we can knot it. So that's what it should look like. And then we're going to go back to that second strand right here and go under and pull it through that loop we've got there. Hopefully y'all could see that okay. And then you're going to hold your working yarn here. So make sure you keep this. I like to make sure that I have a good tail at the end. You don't want it too short, otherwise sometimes it can slip through and you don't want that because it's like a slip knot. If it slips undone, it'll just come undone. So, all right. If we feel okay with that and you guys got a magic circle, we can get started. So this is how we work in the round. So next I'm going to show you a chain stitch. Super duper simple. This is easier. All the actual crochet stitches are simpler than the magic circle. So if you got that down, that was the hardest part. So next we're going to do a chain stitch, which is how I start my granny stitch bandana. So you need to do a chain stitch so that you can get the height that you need to start double crocheting, because a double crochet is a fairly tall stitch. So we need to chain so that we can get that height. So for a chain stitch, I've got my hook in my right hand. Also, if you guys feel like it's a little clumsy at first with crocheting to keep everything like in your hands correctly, that's totally fine. It'll definitely feel clumsy at first, so don't worry, you'll figure out what feels best for you. So I'm a righty. I hold my crochet hook in my right hand. Don't quote me on left hand crocheting because I know it can be totally different. So I don't know left hand crocheting very well because I'm a righty. So got my crochet hook in my right hand. Left hand, I have my working yarn. So how I hold it is I hold my yarn between my middle and my index finger, letting the yarn loop around my index finger like this. So this is how I hold it taut. Some people like to keep it like really wound. I don't like to do that. That's definitely something people feel like they need to do at first, but as you get faster and more skilled, you won't feel like you need to like hold things super duper taut. And then I just kind of let the rest of it just hang between my fingers and loosely hold on to it here. So that's kind of how you hold it. So we're going to work that chain stitch like I was talking about. So we have our loop. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our crochet hook, go under So we're going to go from right to left with our working yarn, going over our hook, catching it in our hook here, and then going through our loop that we have, pulling it towards us and up. And that creates a little chain. As you can see, a little loop. So you can see that okay. All right, we'll do that again. So this is called yarn over. If you ever see crochet patterns written out, it's called yarn over, and that's used in knitting as well. So yarn over, we're gonna go from right to left, working our working yarn into our hook, twisting and pulling towards us and through that loop. Got another chain stitch. Show you that one more time. Going right to left with our working yarn, catching it in our hook. I usually rotate down and towards myself, coming out, and you should only have one loop on your crochet hook. All right, so that's definitely the easiest stitch. You guys can stay here if you want with your chain stitches. I am going to show you a single crochet really quick. For the pattern we're working today, I only use double crochets. If you've crocheted before, single crochet is also a very, very common crochet that you use. I just happen to use double crochets with what we're doing today. So you guys can totally stay here if you want. I'm going to take my chains off because for a single crochet, you only need one chain stitch to get the height that we need. So I'm just going to go down to one chain stitch, but you guys can stay there if you want and just watch me do a single crochet. If you want, you can follow along and do it as well. So for a single crochet, we've got our magic circle here. You want to make sure that you're going into both. So as you can see, we've got our loop and then we've got our tail yarn here. We want to make sure we're going around both the loop and the tail yarn as well. All right, so for a single crochet, we're going to go into our loop. So we're in our loop, and then we're going to do that yarn over that we talked about for the chain stitch, going from right to left, pulling through the crochet hook, back through the loop. So now we have two loops on our hook. Do another yarn over, and both going through both of those loops. So that is a single crochet. I'll do that one more time. So for this one, we go, first step is to go into our loop, yarn over, pulling back through that loop, another yarn over, and going through both those two loops. So then we're only left with one loop on our crochet hook. So that is used in a lot of patterns. That gets you a really tight stitch with the single crochet. I prefer double crochet because it's a little less time consuming to use double crochets because it creates more height. So you can create things faster because you're making larger rows as you go, if that makes sense. So single crochets will get you smaller rows. So they're a little bit more time consuming, but depending on what you're doing, that might be ideal. So I use single crochets. If you ever make crocheted stuffed animals, a lot of those are going to be single crochets because you want the really, really tight stitches so that none of the stuffing comes out of the crocheted animals. So I'll get back to where you guys are. So I've got my magic ring. I'm going to do that 3 chain that we talked about. 2, 3. And now we're going to work a double crochet. So double crochet is essentially the same thing. It's just an extra yarn over. So it's a 2-step. So single crochet is a 1-step. Double crochet is a 2-step. So instead of going into that loop first, what we'll do is do yarn over first, and then we'll go into the loop. Make sure that yarn over doesn't fall off as you're going into the loop. So we want 2 loops on our crochet hook as we go into our magic circle. So we're into the magic circle. We do yarn over here. And then we pull through our magic circle, leaving us with 3 loops on our crochet hook. So you want 3, not the 2 that you would have from a single crochet. And so this is the 2-step part. You go yarn over as you would for a single crochet, and you go through 2 of the loops. Make sure not to go through 3, all 3. So that was the first step. Yarn over again, go through the next 2, and then we're left with 1. So that is a double crochet. So now you should have 2 double crochets. That first chain 3 that we did, that counts as a double crochet in a lot of patterns. Some people decide to not use them to count as a double crochet. I usually do because then it all looks uniform. So it just depends on what your preference is. I like to use the chain as a double crochet. All right, so I'll show that again. We're going to do the yarn over, right to left, over our hook, going into our magic loop, making sure to go through or around both our loop and our working yarn. That's kind of a little tail, or sorry, not working yarn, tail yarn is what I meant. So going through the loop, yarn over the hook, coming back up with 3 loops on our hook. So this is where we do the double step. We'll do another yarn over. We'll go through 2 of the loops. Make sure not to go through 3. And then yarn over again for our second step and go through the remaining 2, leaving us with 1 loop on our hook. All right, one more time, a little bit faster. We'll do a yarn over into our loop. And then naturally your hand is just gonna wanna do the yarn over eventually. It's very repetitious once you get the hang of it. So we've got that pulled through with 3 loops. As you can see, we've got yarn over, going through 2. Second step, yarn over, going through 2. So yeah, don't worry again if it feels a little clumsy, you'll definitely get the hang of it. I'm going to show you really quick. This is not as common of a crochet, but there is also a half double crochet, which doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense. It's between a single and a double. So what it is really quick, I don't use this very often. It's basically a double crochet, but instead of doing the 2-step, you just go through all 3 of them. So it's not a single crochet because you do that extra yarn over in the beginning, but it's not a double crochet because it doesn't have that second step with the same height. So I'm going to drop that. We don't use that stitch in this pattern, and I just don't use it very often in general. All right, so I'm going to get rid of my 4th double crochet here and just go back to 3. So as you can see with crocheting, if you tug on your yarn, it's just going to come right off, which is kind of nice because it makes it easy to redo things if you need to, which is why I love crocheting, because it's nice to be able to mess up if you need to. So I'm going to get that double crochet on here. So we want 3 double crochets And that includes that chain stitch at the beginning, the 3 chains. So 3 chains and then 2 double crochets technically. So that is the start of the crochet bandana. So now I'm going to drop this for a sec and show you guys my pattern for my crochet bandana. Sorry, I'm just screen sharing really quick. All right, so it looks like it is sharing my screen with you guys. I'll pull up my PDF. So this is gonna look really daunting at first. Don't worry, I'm definitely gonna explain it to you guys. This is how I like to do crochet patterns now. If you need to start off with crochet patterns where they're all written out, explaining how to do them, like row by row, step by step, that's totally fine. This is just where I am at now. So this gives you a better visual, I think, as opposed to like having to read through a pattern for today, since I'm explaining it to you. So I'll kind of go through this. So as you can see, this is the triangle that creates this granny stitch bandana. So I know I keep saying granny stitch. I'll actually explain to you. Sorry, I've got a car passing. I'll explain what that actually is and what that means. So we've got all these different symbols and crosses. Basically, it's just broken down so that you can read it without having to have something like typed out. So we start with the magic circle here. I've got my cursor on that. So that's our circle that we start off with. Usually if you see a magic circle, that's going to be your starting point. So I have a little guide up here in the corner. The magic circle is with the MC. Some people call it a magic ring. I usually call it a magic circle. Just up to you. And then I don't think we have any slip stitches in this pattern, but that is what that would look like. And then next is a chain stitch. So that is what the chain stitch looks like. And as you can see, that's what that looks like there with that first 3 that we did. And then we've got a double crochet, which looks like a tall T with an extra cross through it. I'll go to my pattern guide really quick here. So this is what we use for this pattern. I'll show you my full guide, my symbol guide here for what I usually use. There are ones that are more complex with this. These are the most basic. So in this one, I also have the single crochet, which looks like a little T or a little cross, and then a half double crochet, which looks like a capital T. So that's what those look like, but we won't be using that for this pattern. So just to walk you guys through this a little bit. So I keep saying granny stitch. So there's a bunch of different names for certain stitches. There's puff stitch, pineapple stitch, scallop stitch. There's a whole bunch of different names. A granny stitch is essentially 3 double crochets in a cluster. So 3 separate granny crochets all crocheted into like one space. So as you can see here, so let me show it up here. That would make more sense. Nope, it's not letting me. Oh, I am, okay. So you can kind of see we've got the 3, a little hard to see, but we've got 3 separate double crochets that create that granny stitch in this space right here. So that's what a granny stitch is. You see granny stitches used in so many different things. It was really big in like the 60s and 70s to make into like Afghans or like home decor. I actually have a pillow that I made using granny squares. I I also use it to make hats. So I don't know, a granny stitch is very like universal style and it's super easy. Very repetitive, which is why I like it. I can like watch TV while I do it. So it's not just like you have to concentrate super hard on your pattern. So going back to the pattern, we start with that magic circle there. We do the 3 chains, and then those are the 2 double crochets that we just did. So next we'll do a chain stitch and another set of that granny stitch with the 3 double crochets. And so usually with a magic circle, I work in the round, but with this, we actually do end up turning our work. So usually when you work in the round, you don't have to like turn your work at all. With the triangle, you do have to turn your work, but it's super simple. So this is where we do that 3 chain again, where we're starting the granny stitch on the 2nd row. So we're doing that 3 chain to create our height in the 2nd row. So these are all different rows here. Right here, that's another row here. This is another row here. So for the 2nd row, the only tricky thing is making sure for the bandana, you work that first granny stitch into the lower edge here. So that last granny stitch that we did for the following row, you'll work the granny stitch into that last granny stitch. That's the only thing that's a little complicated and makes it a little bit different than a regular granny square, is how you work your edge to get that nice triangle. All right, so we're working those into that last double crochet and then avoiding these 2, if that makes sense. So we avoid these 2, work it all into that last double crochet. And then we've got a chain stitch. And then this is how we create our point to our triangle. So what we do is 2 granny stitches. So the granny stitch, that 3 double crochets with a chain stitch in between. So that's how we're able to get that point that makes a triangle, or on a square is how you get that corner. You don't want to forget the chain stitch. It can be easy to drop a chain stitch. The only thing, it's not the end of the world if you do that. Crocheting is like very forgiving if you like mess up a stitch. The thing with the chain stitch is that that's what gives you that space to crochet into. So that chain stitch is basically like a space stitch. You'll hear people call it like a space as well. And then we work back down this edge, coming down to this granny stitch here. And then we work into that chain stitch there. So that first chain stitch that we did, that is considered our double crochet at the end of that first row. So you're always working a granny stitch into, at the end, you're working that into your last double crochet from the row before, if that makes sense. And then it just repeats. So basically for each row, you add another granny stitch cluster to each side, and that's what allows you to make it like keep on getting bigger. So it's super simple, super repetitive. I really enjoy it. And the nice thing about granny stitch and like granny squares is a lot of times you can just like whip a bunch out and then you can figure out what you want to do with it later. So if you're like, oh, I need a project to do, but I don't really know what I want to make yet, I like to just do granny squares, and they're really fun. You can do them like watching TV, and then you can figure out what to do with them later. If you make a ton, you can make a blanket. If you don't make a ton, you could make something else. So the granny stitch bandana is essentially a half granny square. So I'll show you really quick the granny square, and then we'll get back to the pattern where we're actually gonna make something, I promise. I'm just doing a lot of explaining right now. So this is what a granny square looks like. So if you were to cut this in half diagonally, you would literally have a granny square, but the triangle version. So that is what that looks like. Again, looks super complicated because of all the like dashes and T's and crosses and stuff. But once you really break it down, looking at it row by row, it's super easy to figure out. Just takes a little patience, like anything. So we're going to go back to this and actually work on something, and I'm not just going to talk at you anymore. So we are to this point right here. So we've worked up to here, and next we're going to do, as you can see, we're going to do that chain stitch. So we've got the chain stitch there that I have my cursor on. Moving back to my work here. Sorry, bear with me here. I'm going to make sure all my screens are up so that I am able to make sure everything is going smoothly. One second here. In the meantime, you can practice anything we've just learned. All right. All right, so back to this. We've got the chain stitch right here that we're working on now. Okay, so next we're going to do that chain stitch with the yarn over and through the loop. Next, we're going to do a granny stitch cluster, or just a granny stitch. I just call it a cluster because it's a cluster of double crochets. So we've got that 3 double crochets, which y'all are a pro at by now. So we're going to do yarn over into our magic circle, yarn over again, yarn over, pulling through the 2 loops, yarn over, pulling through the 2 loops with 1 left on our crochet hook. Do it again, yarn over, going through the loop, catching both of those, both your magic circle and your tail. Yarn over, pulling through the loop or the magic circle. Yarn over, pulling through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, pulling through the first 2 loops. All right, so now we've got 2. We just need 1 more according to our pattern. Yarn over, through the loop, yarn over, back out of the loop, yarn over, through the first 2 loops, yarn over, through the next 2 loops. So as you can see, it's a lot of yarn over and then pulling through. It's all very repetitive. All right, so now we are at the end of our first row, which it does not look like, as you can see on the pattern, because our magic circle is so big. So why we need that tail yarn sticking out is so that we can tighten it. So you've got your loop here, as you can see. So now we're going to tighten it. We're going to pull on our tail end gently. Don't do it too fast because you can break your yarn, which is devastating. So don't pull on it too hard. I apologize for the honking in the background. And now we've got, it kind of looks like a half circle. Once you start doing the next rows, it starts to get more of that like triangular pointy shape. So the first row looks a little bit just more like a half circle. But we are at the end of that first row. So we did it. And then moving on to the second row, we're going to start with that chain stitch, that 3 chain stitch that we talked about. All right, so we're going to do that to get our height for our next row. So we're going to do chain stitch 1, chain stitch 2, chain stitch 3. So real quick, to get that height, usually for single crochet, you want to do 1 chain stitch. If you're doing a row of single crochets, you'll do a chain 1 to get the height you need, half double crochets, the one where I told you where you go through all 3 of the loops, that's 2 chain stitches to get the height you need for a row, and then double crochet is 3. Depending on the country the pattern was written in, it might be a little bit different. So some people might just do 2 chain stitches for a double crochet. I do the 3 stitches just because that's what I learned. So, all right, so we got our 3 chain stitches, and this is when we turn our work. So we do the chain stitches before we turn our work. So that is when we turn our work here. I'm going to turn my piece around. And now we're working right to left again. So you're always working from right to left, which is backwards from writing. So right to left for crocheting. All right. So now we've got that first double crochet. That is our 3 chains. So that acts as our first double crochet. And I'll probably only show you guys 1 or 2 more rows just so I have enough time to show you some other things. So like I said, obviously we're not going to finish a full bandana, but as you can see from my pattern, you can totally download this if you want. I want to say 12 to 13 rows total for a bandana. Usually takes me like 40 to 45 minutes, depending on how fast I'm working and how start and stop I'm working. So it is very easy and very repetitive once you get the hang of it. All right, so we're going to work a couple more rows. So now we're going to do into this. All right, so you kind of want to separate here. So you want to make sure you're getting in the right spot. You're going to work into this space here with our next double crochet. So we're going yarn over into this hole right here between our previous row of the last double crochet and the double crochet before that. And we're doing yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. All right, so we have 2 now, so we need another one. We're going to do yarn over, go through that little hole right there if you guys can see. Make sure I'm showing that accurately. So yarn over, go through that hole, yarn over, catch it, back up, yarn over, through the first 2 loops, yarn over, through the second 2 loops. And then this is where we want our chain stitch. So we're going to do a chain stitch. So between every granny cluster, we have a chain stitch to make space for the next row. And then we're going to work into this space here. So in that previous row where we have our chain stitch, like we talked about, this is where we'll work our point. So this is where we work our 2 granny stitches or our 2 3 double crochet clusters. So into that same space, if you need to separate it to make it a little easier to see, you can totally do that. I still do that sometimes. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets, which you guys have down pat by now. 2 and 3. But we're at our point, so we need to do a second set of the granny stitch. So I just did a chain stitch. Like I said, if you forget a chain stitch, it's not the end of the world. Just might make it a little harder for the next row to get your granny stitch in there. You might just have to zhuzh it a little bit. All right, so we did 1, 2, 3. So now we've got 3 double crochets up here. Or sorry, 2 sets of the 3 double crochets up here. I'm going to do the chain stitch. And then between, so we've got those double crochets from the previous row. We're going to work between the second and the third one for our last granny stitch. So in that space, we're going to do 3 double crochets All right. And we can all do one more row together, then I'll move on to explaining how you can use these techniques into other things. So we're going to do that chain stitch for the third row, the 3 chains. Turn your work. So it was like this. You're going to turn your work. Between that second and third double crochet, you're going to go through that hole and start on your next row. So just remember that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. So you only need to do 2 when you start your row. So you do the 3 chain and then you do 2 double crochets. All right, so I'm going to get to the end of my row. You guys can certainly take your time. I'm just going to get to the end of the row so I can show you how I actually make it into a bandana. Obviously, this would be tiny as a bandana, but how I make it so that I have hair ties at the end. So I'm just going to get to the end of my row. You can certainly keep practicing. Then I can show you how I do that. So as you can see, it's much, much faster where it's like you can't even tell what someone's doing. It just gets very repetitious. It's a very tactile hobby. So it's very just like based on feel, which just takes practice like anything. All right, so now I'm at the end of my row. So if I had like 12 or 13 rows, that's what I usually do for my bandana. Some people like to do them bigger. That's just the size that I like. And so to get the hair ties on the end, so basically how it goes is like this with the hair ties where you go under and that's where you tie it. So what I do is I get to the end. I don't take my yarn out. I don't finish off. I just keep going. For that first hair tie. Once I get to the second hair tie on the other end, that is where I need to chain off. So my hair ties go on the end of the triangles here. If you look back at the pattern, I have my cursor. So the triangle point here is where I put my hair ties off there and then there. So basically all I do is a bunch of chain stitches. It's super simple. You can make it a fancier band if you want to. If you want like a little bit of a sturdier tie, I've got 2 rows. So I've got a chain stitch, a bunch of chain stitches that I just single crocheted into just to make it a teensy bit sturdier of a tie. As you can see, crocheting is super like stretchy. Which is nice because everyone's got different head sizes. But you can literally do chain stitches if you want and then just tie off at the end. So I usually do 40, around like 35 to 40 chain stitches. So you just go chain stitch, make a long, long chain. Which when you're not working in the round, this is how you start projects. So if you're making a rectangle, usually start with a bunch of chain stitches and then you work like back and forth, if that makes sense. So a bunch of chain stitches. Just for this purpose, I'm going to stop so I don't waste more yarn than I need to. So this would be one tie. You can cut off there with your snips and then just pull your hook out, tighten it. So in that case, pulling your hook out is okay. You're not going to lose your stitch if you do it that way. So yeah, and then you can just knot off, knot it again if you feel like you need to. So yeah. And then on this side, when I want to add my other chain stitch, I would just insert my hook and start with some chain stitches here. Same thing. But I'm going a little faster. I want to make sure I have enough time to show you guys some other stuff. Yeah, I've got my chain, and then that's how I keep doing it on this side too. So yeah, it's just starting in that same hole that we've been working in on the other side. And then you just want to make sure you knot it off on both ends in this case, because if you like tug this, it'll come out. So you just want to make sure you knot it off. Whoops. This end too. Like that. All right, so that is how you do the crochet bandana. I hope that all made sense and was very doable. I hope it didn't go too fast. But yeah, I like to use, I have lots of fun like ombre yarns that I use. So this is actually stock yarn that I use. They come in like all sorts of fun ombres. I also have this like purpley one. So my customers really like these. Yeah, I'll just explain a couple of things that you can also make with these same skills, and then I'll open it up to questions really quick, because I know we got like a little less than 10 minutes left. So as I was saying, this is the triangle, which is a rendition of the granny square, which you've probably seen like all over the place. It's really coming back into style now, because crocheting is in general coming back into style. So with the granny square, other projects that I have worked on, so I do the crocheted bandanas, but then I also make hats. The bandanas take me under an hour to make. The hats are a little bit more time consuming because we're making a bigger piece. So I will show you really quick. Screen share. There it is. Share. All right, so this is a hat that I've made. As you can see, it's got that same granny stitch pattern, but it's worked in the complete round and made into a square. So the fun thing is you can switch off with different colors for these. I really like granny squares. They're just super simple and you can make so many things. I can't say enough good things about them. So basically all this hat is I'm gonna say it was 5 granny squares that I pre-made in the square and then sewed together using yarn to make into a brim. And then I crocheted a circle on top. I used a pattern for like a circle in the round that I made into the crown. So the top of the crown, and then the, sorry, I said brim before. So the granny squares I made into the crown. And then once I had the circle and the crown connected, I was able to add a brim where you just insert your hook into the granny squares and create a brim with an increase pattern. So it sounds a little daunting, but once you get the hang of it, also circles are super easy to make. You can find a lot of patterns on those on Pinterest. Pinterest is where I get like 90% of my inspiration, and I also get patterns from there too. So that is a granny square hat you can make. I would show you in person, but I sold it, thankfully, so that's a good thing. And then I'll show you one more thing. I've got a picture.
Are you looking for your earring picture?
Yeah, I accidentally deleted my screen share, so it's not pulling up.
Oh,
I think if I do it,
here you go. I've got it right here.
I was gonna say I pulled it up, so now it should pull up. Do you
That
have it, Michelle?
one?
Yeah, so that is a granny square rendition. It's a little bit different, but it's essentially the same techniques. It's just with some different stitches in there. So I have a puff stitch in there, which I didn't learn. I didn't teach you today. But it's essentially like a rendition of a granny square. It's just with a couple different stitches. So what I used for that is I actually use tatting thread, very similar to crochet thread. So it's this really thin stuff, and I have to use an itty bitty crochet hook for it. Otherwise, if you use a big hook for it, you'll get these huge earrings because this is what dictates the size of your stitch. So yeah, that's how I do that. And I have some fun different colors that I use for those. So this one's technically tatting thread that I use because I kind of like the luster of these over crochet thread. So yeah, that's how I make my crochet earrings that I sell at the market. I won't go through that today because it's crocheting with this itty bitty hook is super hard to show via Zoom. So yeah, that is how I do that. Trying to think of anything else. If we want to start opening it up to questions, I hope that was all easy to understand. So yeah, that's another one in the triangle shape. And I also have, I don't know if you have the flower one, Rochelle, if you want to show that. If not, I also have it that I can pull up. You just have this down pat, so. All right, so I will open it up to questions. Hit me with all your questions if you have any.
My question is, what happens, like, does the different size yarn, do you do different stitches with the different size, or can you do the same stitch with any size yarn?
Yeah, you can do essentially any stitch with any size yarn. So all these crochet hooks that I have on yarn scenes that you'll get, they'll have on the label, they'll have like recommendations for hook size that you use. So I've got this one on with the tag still on it, and it's really hard to read, so I'll read it for you, but it recommends a 2.75 millimeter for a knitting needle or a 3.25 millimeter for a crochet hook. So I'm using one that's bigger because I like a looser stitch for my bandanas. Otherwise you'll get like a very tight stitch, so it won't be as like drapey. But yes, to answer your question, you can do these stitches with any crochet thread, crocheting yarn. Yeah, might just take a little practice with different sizes. Like I said, the crochet thread, the tatting thread, it can be a little bit more difficult to work so tiny at first because it is very like up close in your face, and like you have to have pretty good dexterity, which is why I didn't show it in this video because I knew I'd be messing up and not being a very good teacher with it. Plus it's hard to look at things so closely, but yeah.
I don't have a
Erin,
question.
my name's Maggie Thompson. I'm the president of the Bead Society.
Hi.
And I'm just here to help moderate and get questions asked. And there's somebody who is wondering if you use beads as embellishment, or maybe branches or beads at the end of your ties.
Yeah. You can definitely add beading in crocheting. The only thing with that is you need to make sure that you either string your beads on your yarn first if you want to crochet around your bead, or if you want the actual loop of your crochet hook to go. It's kind of hard to explain just because I don't have any beads on me at the moment that are the right size. So you can either do it where you crochet your bead into your stitch, or where your bead just like sits on top of your stitch. If you want your bead to be within your stitch, you need to make sure you have a bead that will fit through your crochet hook will fit through. So oftentimes if you're using big beads, that's easier. Little itty bitty beads, you'll need like a itty bitty crochet hook for. But yeah, I've actually done pieces where I've used beads. I don't do that a ton just because I'm impatient. I get a little frustrated easily. Definitely with practice, it gets easier. But yeah, the way that I do it, I just string my beads onto my crochet thread first, and then I will, I can show you kind of really quick without the bead, but explaining how you do it. So yeah, I don't know about branches. I'm sure you certainly could like do that. I'm not sure about how you do that. So I just have a slip stitch here. So what you do if you pretended you were sliding a bead down here, you would just crochet around your bead. So if there's like a little bead here, you just make room for it and then crochet around it, and your bead would be part of your stitch there. So yeah, I haven't done a ton with beads. I need to do more and be a little bit more patient. Any more questions?
Hi, this is Hannah. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to be here. I'm sorry if my voice is a little hoarse. Talking at the market all morning kind of takes it out of my voice. I'm like, I hope I didn't lose my voice during this at all, and you could all understand me. So thank you.
What time do you have to set up down there?
So some people get there at like 5 a.m. I don't get there till 6:30 because my setup isn't too involved. Plus, I don't know, vendors, you can kind of take your time getting ready in the morning. But the farmer's market does start at 7 a.m. and then it goes till 1 o'clock. So that's Saturdays and Sundays. And yeah, I don't know if any of you guys are in the Twin Cities at all. You can certainly stop by. I'm also on Instagram, which I know Maggie posted on the Upper Midwest Bead Society with my info. I'm on Instagram, and if you guys want to see more of my products, at The Retro Collective, I post pictures like almost every day. And if you see something you like and you're like, I want to learn how to make this, I don't share my patterns with everyone, but if there's a pattern that I found on Pinterest, I can certainly send it to you if you want to make something your own. My own personal patterns, I don't just share with everyone, but a lot of my stuff I get off of Pinterest. So, or if you want to buy something, you can also message me through Instagram, and I do story sales on Instagram every 2 weekends. So yeah, just my little plug there, quick.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Or we all good?
Oh, I think it is so fabulous. I just love what you're doing and love, I've been, I don't know if anybody can see, this is what I made.
Nice.
Whoops, what did I just do? There you go. So it's basically, it looks kind of like a ginkgo leaf, but in my personal opinion, so I don't know.
Did you do the square, but this
bottom, and so I don't know what I did.
Say that again.
I don't know what I did wrong with my stitch, because it's supposed to be, I got the point part, but that's where on the bandana, see, this is my circle, my center, and so it's rather curved on the bottom. So I don't know what I did wrong, but
If you want to send me a picture, yeah, was gonna say, I can't really tell just from the, I think what you might have done is done the double crochet cluster at the point. I think you might have done that more than once, so it was creating an increase throughout your whole thing.
Don't you do it on each row?
So you only do the point at the very top.
Right
So
in
I
the
can
middle.
go-
Right in the middle, right? But don't you do the 6, like at the repetitive on each row in the center, or no?
You do it on each row, but only at the top. So you don't do it on your other granny clusters. Does that make sense? Is that the issue?
Well, it's the edges. It doesn't make a triangle. It makes a ginkgo
It
leaf.
makes a square. Interesting.
I was gonna say, you got a paisley there.
I know. So I
You'll
don't
just send me a picture, Rochelle. We'll get that figured out.
or else when you come in after the market next time.
Yeah, I'll probably be
There
there
you go.
tomorrow, honestly.
And so yeah, my guess is it's where I'm starting or finishing. Yeah, you know. But I think
Yeah.
it's loads of fun. So I've been having a blast with
You
it.
can make a leaf too, honestly. So
So I really appreciate the loads of fun. I learned to crochet when I was 8. So now 46 years later, I'm getting back into it again.
yeah, I'm all for like, you can learn at any age. I didn't learn how to sew or to crochet until college, and it's not something that you have to learn when you're young. So you can learn at any time.
Yeah, I just think it's hilarious. So it's been a joy, and I really appreciate having you here. And so thanks for coming, after your market. And,
of course.
We look forward to having more fun with you in the future. So if you're thinking about teaching an August class, you never know. We're having lots of good stuff. So anybody else that wants to teach in August, let me know. I still have spaces for our August demo and do series of workshop classes. We want basic classes. We want more intermediate and advanced classes. So anybody that wants to teach, just give me a contact, shout out, and we'll get you booked in. Otherwise, look for the calendar for our August demo and do to be up on our website soon. And you'll be able to pay for the classes through the website as well when you register, but then you will buy the kit directly from the instructor. So like Maggie or Doris, when you have kits, then you'll be going there to get the kit from them, and then you'll register for the class through UMBS through the website. So we're making it all simpler for you, and you'll have an email that's just basically a calendar of events for it too. So we're looking forward to the fun. And so everybody join us for July 5th meeting, where it's Hannah and Sean doing our lamp work demonstration. And so we're totally excited. And then next Beading Basics Live is July 15th. So mark your calendars. And thanks for joining us, everyone. I can't wait to see you next time. If you have any questions, you can comment in the comments, and then we'll try to answer them all for you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a rest of your Juneteenth and your summer solstice, and happy Father's Day to everybody. Dads out there, and don't forget about your dad. So, and happy Pride all month long. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.